Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Questioning Sense with me, Matt. I hope you guys are well. We're okay, we're all good here. The sun's out, so that's the South London weather update over. You can be rest assured that I'm not going to bang on about it anymore. It's actually quite a nice day. So, perfect day to talk about some new perfumes to me. Now, I did a review a while back of SweDoft's Rasputin, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And I've been in talks with the company and with the nose behind all their perfumes, a guy called Sean J.A. Now, he has very kindly sent me some perfumes to review. And I'm going to start with this one, which is called Black Rose. Now, regular viewers to the channel will know that I have an awful lot of oud rose combination fragrances. In fact, if you look at my collection, you'll see that oud and rose are the most common bottles of perfume I own. So I've got quite a lot in there from various houses, from SweDoft to Mancera to Ferrari. You know, there's lots and lots of different ones in there. And if you follow us on Instagram, you'll know that they feature quite prominently in my photos. So the question is for me, is there space in my collection for another oud rose? Is it a genre that I'm a little tired of? Or, you know, is it something that I still adore with a passion? Well, the answer to that is quite a simple one. Yes, I still love that genre of perfume. It's something that it just connects very, very well with me. And it's also quite ironic, really, because Rich, obviously the partner in question in Sense, who does all the hard work, cannot get on with rose. So it's really good for me because it means that they're perfumes that I don't have to share with him. Happy days. But in all seriousness, when the perfumes arrived that have been sent over to me from Sweden to sample and to review, I was kind of excited and a little bit nervous about the oud rose one because obviously I have such a wealth of them. So is there going to be a space for it in my collection? And the simple answer to that is absolutely yes. This is beautiful. I'm wearing it at the moment, and I'm going to spray a little bit more for the purposes of the review. This is glorious. It's absolutely awesome, and it's unlike any of the others that I own, so I'm very, very pleased with that. So there is certainly a spot for this one. In fact, when this arrived, I sprayed it and then I wore it that evening. I've worn it today, I wore it yesterday, so it's certainly one that's getting a lot of attention from me, and that's because it's simply gorgeous. And I'm going to talk a little bit about it in a fair bit of depth because it's a clever perfume, and it is, as I say, it's quite unique to any of the oud roses that I've got. So if you look at the ethos behind this fragrance, it was actually named by a friend of mine called Fragrance Weirdo. He was working with SweDoft in terms of giving them some advice and things like that on a perfume, and they allowed him to name this one. So he came up with the name of Black Rose. So well done, Fragrance Weirdo, a great name. So the ethos behind this is exploring the damask rose, which is, it's kind of, SweDoft had pointed out, it's kind of like a myth. It's been talked about in sort of, high regard for a very long time. And what they've tried to do with this perfume, and I think they've succeeded, is recreate it, but in a different way. So lots of the oud roses I've got are quite big and bombastic fragrances that are not always, the easiest to wear. You have to be very careful which scenario you wear them in. And what they've done is they've come up with an oud rose combination that can be worn by anyone in any situation, and that in itself is quite an achievement. So if we look at the notes of this gets really, really interesting because there's one in here that surprised me completely. So at the top, or there isn't a top, middle and a bottom either. They've just listed the materials that they've used, and it's damask rose, chamomile, blue oud and incense. Now obviously you'd expect the rose, you expect the oud, and incense and oud and incense and rose go together quite well. We've seen it performed in lots and lots of different houses. I think Tower has one just called Incense Rose. So it's not, that in itself is not particularly strange or new combination, but the addition of chamomile is where this gets really, really intriguing. And I've had to research it and I've looked into it and done some smelling and stuff like that, because when I hear the word chamomile, I think of tea. I think of kind of hippie tea or a herbal tea. It's something that my mum, she likes the chamomile tea, and that's where my nose always associates it from. When we go and stay with my mum, she generally drinks quite a lot of chamomile tea. I have the odd one. It's not really for me. I prefer a green tea, to be honest. So I was wondering where this comes from. Now, there are three main types of chamomile out there that are used in perfumery. Now, generally speaking, wild chamomile is the one that gets used in tea. And this is that floral herby type smell that if you've ever smelled or drunk chamomile tea, you'll be more, au fait with. You'll recognise it and think, oh, right, yeah, that's that. There's another type of chamomile, which is a steamed distilled chamomile, which is, I think, generally comes from Germany. Now, this is slightly different. And what this does is this gives a darker, almost smoky-like vibe. There's a slightly incensey vibe from it. And also sometimes there's a bit of an appley note. Now, with this, I don't particularly get any apples. What I do get is this beautiful, sharp, clear rose. It's not sweet, it's not jammy, it's quite unctuous, it's quite a luscious rose. It almost feels moist. When you smell it in the air, it does feel very, very moist. And then the blue oud. Now, I'm obviously on a bit of an oud kick at the moment, and I've sort of tried lots of different ouds, and there's a lot more reviews of oud oils coming up, thanks to the assistance from the guys at Oud Base. But blue oud is new to me. I don't know anything about it, but what I can tell you now is the oud that's used in this perfume is incredibly clean. It's a fresh oud. There's no barnyard to it. There's no animalic funk. There's no skankiness or any kind of medicinal properties or anything like that have been cleaned out. So what they've done with the oud is they've obviously processed it incredibly well. It's obviously been distilled properly and extracted well, so there's no funk to it. So that in itself shows a lot of thought and a lot of preparation in preparing this perfume. But I think when you're tying together the rose and the oud, you're expecting a completely different combination. Here you have quite a sharp, crisp rose. The oud gives it some clarity. The oud is kind of like a base that sorts things out. The incense is light. It's definitely handled. It doesn't over dominate. And I think with what I'm assuming, I don't know this for sure, this distilled chamomile just adds to the incensey vibe, but doesn't make it an overly intense incense. If you're looking for a really heavy incense rose kind of fragrance, you're not going to find it here. What you're going to find here is a clean, almost fresh oud rose, which is ultimately very, very wearable. The performance on this is outstanding. It stays with you all day. You're in a nice bubble, good projection, and a wonderful sillage. Now, again, I have to use the wife test. She's not a massive fan of oud or oud rose combinations, but she really likes this one. And that's because I think the perfume is so clean. It's just crisp and it floats around you. It's in a really good place, if you're around people that don't wear or don't particularly like oudy fragrances. This can be worn anywhere, as I said before. It's a clean, fragrant fragrance, which I think works very, very well. I would certainly say that you could wear this to work. I would certainly say you could wear this anywhere. This would be a good one dressed up, and it'll be a good one casually as well, because it has a really intoxicating sillage. People will smell it, will smell you rather, and think, oh, that smells nice, where's that coming from? So it does that, it doesn't dominate. And it also, when you put your nose to the skin, it smells quite heavy on your skin, so it doesn't ever stop being above skin. It doesn't disappear into a skin scent. For its long life, it seems to stay slightly above the skin. But it's another one that does that. There must be some very interesting aroma chemicals used in this, because it's incredibly airy. It gives a lovely cloud around you, and it's quite ethereal. It floats around you, gives you a very, very nice vibe, and just makes you smell quite interesting. Certainly one for the more mature fragrance enthusiast. I absolutely love this and will be wearing it an awful lot. This is, for me, it's one of those ones where if you're not quite, I do not like the term dumb reach, but if it's one that you're not quite sure where you're going in the day, you may be going to work, you may be going out after work, or you're not quite sure what to wear. This is a perfect example of that, because it is oud and it is rose and it's incense and it's obviously got this chamomile, but because it's so unchallenging, it's such an easy wear. I thoroughly recommend this, especially for those that are kind of a bit on the fence with oud. But as I was saying, it's certainly one for the more mature fragrance enthusiasts, but I think the thrusters will enjoy it as well. It doesn't smell old, it doesn't smell dated. It's a modern perfume, which I think is an excellent idea, especially when you're exploring such a well-known genre. Not every company, but lots and lots of people have got a rose frag or an oud rose frag out, and this is quite different. It has that clean effect to it, which I think is excellent. So what we have is a very well blended, very long lasting perfume with a good level of performance in terms of sillage and projection. So well worth exploring. I can't really fault it. Now, as I say, I've not had it that long, so, you know, I will wear it an awful lot, I can guarantee that. And maybe, you know, in time there'll be things that I think I'm not quite sure about. But as it stands at the moment, and this is much more than a first impression, this has had a good few wearings now. I think it's awesome. I think it's absolutely excellent. Now, SweDoft do a 30ml, a 50ml and a 100ml bottle. So, you know, you can take the plunge, you know, with one of these smaller bottles without really risking any money. But I don't think it's a risk. I think if you're keen on rose and you're keen on oud, there's nothing in here that you won't like. You will enjoy this perfume. I will state my name on that. Now, what I'll do is Rich will get the pictures up and the pricing up so you know exactly where to get it. It's carried in the UK, or you can order it direct from SweDoft. I think SweDoft are worldwide as well, so I'm sure there's lots of other sort of online retailers where you can purchase this from. I think they do sample sets as well, I'm not entirely sure. But I have to say, this is a very good perfume, and I'm going to give it a massive thumbs up, and I'm really enjoying it. So from someone who is not a tired oud and rose fan, but a well-trodden oud and rose fan, it's nice to have something come up that's completely different to anything I own and something that I really, really enjoy. So I can't really give it higher praise than that. Anywho, thank you very much for your time. I believe my darling Richard is on holiday at the moment, so I'm filming quite a few videos for him to get stuck into when he comes back, so he'll thank me for that. Anyway, I digress. Listen, thank you very much for your time, guys. I really, really appreciate it. We'll be back with plenty more reviews. So, you know, stay tuned and see what's coming. Cheers, thanks, and bye.